Hey everyone, and welcome to another Nielsen Networking video. In this video, we're going to go over the Linux commands. And more specifically, we're going to go over what I consider, after using Linux for 25 plus years, to be the essential, the core, the foundational and fundamental Linux commands that anyone who is serious about Linux should at least be aware of, and if not, should be aiming to become aware of and aiming to expand their knowledge of these commands. So without any further ado, let's just get into it. All right, and the first command we're going to go over is something probably not used as much as it used to be, and that's thanks to Google, and it is something known as the man command, M-A-N. And what this is short for is manual. And you can think of this as a built-in help file for all Linux commands. And why I said it doesn't get used anymore is because most people probably just go out to Google these commands. But you know what? Linux has a built-in option for that. So if we were to man the man command, it actually brings up the manual page on the command man. And you can see it gives you the name, it gives you some different ways you can use it with different arguments to get different results, it gives you the description, and on and on and on. A lot of information. It is there if you ever can't find what you're looking for on Google. Don't hesitate to try the man command. We'll use it a couple times throughout this video just to show you how it works and how quickly you can pull up results without having to go out to Google. And that will be our first command. All right. Now, really to get into the core commands that other than man, we're going to start with the command I would say I use more than any command, and that is ls. ls lists the directory contents. It doesn't have to be the directory you're in, so I'm in home.kali right now. Let's say I wanted to see what was in the bin directory. I would just do ls space and the directory I want to do. We can do the same for the Etsy directory. And you can even go down deeper. So you wanted to go down to DHCP inside the Etsy directory. It then shows you that. So that's how you can kind of use the ls. But let's say you wanted to, in your own directory, you just wanted to know, are there any other files in here I'm not seeing? And you can do what's called adding a command line argument. So you can then add an A. So it's going to list all the directories and the hidden ones. But let's say that's a little unorganized and you don't like the horizontal view. It's kind of hard to see it that way. What if you wanted to list it? And just as a note, you can always hit the up arrow key in Linux and it will always repeat the last command you did. You can hit it multiple times and it will continue through the commands you've done. So just a little pointer there. But let's say we wanted this in a nicer format. We could add an L command line. So we have an L and an A. So we're going to list all in a list format. And there you go. So pretty cool, right? Now let's say one other thing, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but let's say you wanted to know how many commands were in here. You could then pipe it using the pipe command and add an L for number line, and it will count how many files are in there. So we're going to go into those commands and more arguments a little further, but if you wanted to know how many command line arguments are there actually for ls, you would of course do man. And look at it. All of them are there with the description of what they do. I'm not going to go down all those because we would be here forever, but that's the importance and the power of man. It is there on the fly and it's quicker than Google. So that's that. That's the ls command. The next command goes hand in hand kind of with the ls command, and that is going to be known as the cd command. And cd stands for change directory. So let's say we are now in the home-kali or /kali. We wanted to go up a directory. We would then do cd ... to go up a directory. Now you can see we're in the home directory, and another ls shows us there's two folders in this directory. Let's say we wanted to go up another directory. Now we're in the root directory. Let's say we wanted to go into the, let's go into the bin directory. So we would do cd bin. And then again, inside bin, we can actually do another ls, and we see all the executables that are in here. Now instead of going, all the way one at a time, directory by directory, you could actually use an absolute path and go like cd/home/kali. And look, we're right back there. So you don't have to change directory by directory. You can go there directly if you want. And again, if you had any questions, you could always man the cd command. So that's that command. The next command you're going to want to know is the pwd command. And what that does is it lists your current directory. So you can never get lost. And I know what you're saying, well, it shows your directory right up there, but it doesn't always show it right up there. And let me show you. So if we were to go up a directory here and go into, look, it doesn't show where I am, but if I do pwd, it shows me where I am. See what I mean? So it's not always going to be nice here and show you your file path. So it's a very I wouldn't say powerful, but it is. It's a powerful command because you could be 10 directories deep and not know where you are, and you can type that pwd and it reprints it here, and then you can cut and paste that command instead of having to type it all in. Or what if you needed that command to cd to later, you know? It is very powerful and very helpful. So that's the pwd command. And the next command we're going to go over is the mkdir or mkdir, make directory. And we're just going to go ahead and we'll be real original as I always am. We'll just make a test directory. Now, if you look at it, you can see it's there. But what's cool about this is, again, we can up arrow. Let's say this, you wanted to have multiple directories. You can do it all at the same time. Now check that out. All there. Pretty neat, right? And then we'll go ahead and list them all using our ls command. And then you could cd to one of them. So you see how the commands all kind of play together? Now, using an argument, and you're not going to use many arguments, but let's say you wanted to create like a folder within a folder, if you will, you can do mkdir, and what you would do is you'd use the argument slash or hyphen p, and then you would say test, what am I on, test 5, and then a slash test 5a. All right, so now if we go to test 5, and look inside it, there's a test 5a folder inside it. So it's pretty cool what you can do with this. And Linux, really, you can do anything with the command line. That's why the command line is so powerful. Back in the day, everything had to be by the command line. You know, they had KDE and GNOME a little bit back then, but nothing like it. It was a big deal even to get your desktop to load back then. So anyways, sorry I went down the rabbit hole there, but a lot of good memories about how it's so much easier to use nowadays that a lot of people don't even realize how it used to be. So anyway, those are the mkdir commands. Pretty powerful. And if you had any other questions on what can be done, again, use the man command. Logically following make directory would be remove directory. So first you need to know what you're going to delete or remove, and then you would type in rmdir. Now a note here, this command works fine as long as there's nothing in the directory. So let's try it and see, you'll see what I mean. So we go here, we go to test 1, it's going to tell us there's already something in it. But if we try to do it and we can see, why don't we see what's in test 2? There's nothing in it, right? So now if we do rmdir on test 2, it should work, right? And now if we do an ls again, we can see it's gone. But what is in test 1? So let's find out. There's another folder called test inside it. All right, so now you're thinking, do I have to cd into that directory and rmdir test in there? You could, but there's a better way, but it's also a very powerful way. And what you're going to do is you're going to type in actually just rm, and you're going to space and do a hyphen rf. Now be very warned, this command will literally destroy your whole entire operating system if you do not give an explicit command argument. So you want that, and then you need to put exactly, when I say explicit, what you want it to delete. So I want it to delete the test1 folder. If you were to do an asterisk, it's literally going to delete anything in that folder. So make sure you're explicit in the instructions you're giving it. So rm space hyphen rf and then the directory name. And as you can see now, it's wiped out anything. If you were to have done that and you did rm rf, I'm not going to do it, but say, and then you put a slash, let's just say like that, it would literally wipe out everything in the core directory. And as you know, in this directory is all of our operating system. So it's very important that when you use that command, I can't like emphasize it enough. Make sure you know what you're doing. It's literally it's kind of like the Alt F4 joke in Windows where they're like, oh, you have a problem, Alt F4, right? Only this will destroy your operating system instead of closing your program. I'm sure you can go out and Google it. There's probably tons of memes out there, but that is a way to do it. So you can also do the same if there was multiple folders inside of folders, or if there's multiple folders you wanted to create, you could do the same thing where with the make directory, you know, we did, well, let's just do, you know, this. You can also do rm directory and it will delete them all. So it's pretty much the opposite of what make directory is, mkdir and then rmdir. So those are them. And again, remember that rmrf command is not a toy. It will literally, and it won't even ask you if you want to do it. It's not Windows. Linux will make you feel the pain. Make sure you know what you're doing before you use that command. That's my warning. The next command is going to be mv. Now this stands for move, but you can also think of it as renaming. So let's see what we have here. We have a test 1 and a test 2. So let's say we wanted to change test 2 and name it test 3. And now you look, We're good. Now let's say we wanted to move test3 into test. And then if we go into test, whoops, remember Linux is case sensitive. Should have mentioned that earlier. You go into test and you can see test3 is in there. Now let's say you wanted to move test out of there, you would just go test3 dot dot and you go up and look, there it is again. You can move multiple things at once. So let's say we wanted to go and say we wanted to move test1 and test3 to test. Go ahead and do that. And you can see by doing an ls test there and there. And I mean, there's a little bit more to it, but not much. It's kind of just renaming and moving. And if you wanted more information on that, again, you could use the man file. Next command is pretty easy. It's going to be cp for copy, short for copy. So you would do cp, file name to be copied, and output file name. There they are. To do a directory with cp, you would do cp space /r directory name and output directory name. Pretty straightforward. And just like make directory has an opposite, remove directory, copy has an opposite, and that is rm. And rm is not going to prompt you when you go to delete it, so just be warned. So if you do rm for remove, file name, it's just going to wipe it out. It's not going to ask you if you want to do it. Now, if you wanted to actually delete a folder, you could do rm dash R for recursive and F for force, and then type in hello for the folder name. And it's gone. Now, if you wanted to blow out an entire directory, you can do rm-rf with an asterisk, but make sure you're in the right directory when you do this. If you do this in a directory you don't want to blow out, you're gone, because watch what happens here. No warning, and it's gone. There is no recycle bin, it is gone. So use that carefully. I would suggest you do a man or rm just to kind of get, like, you can see what the force is, ignore non-existent files and arguments, and never prompt. Just a warning, you may want to check that out. So that one, honestly, out of all the commands, that's the one you can do the most damage with. So I know I sound like I'm harping on something, but it literally can cause you a lot of pain if you accidentally make a mistake using it. So be careful. Next command is going to be touch, like may I touch your cat or your dog or whatever. And what it does is it creates an empty blank file. Think of it as right-clicking in Windows and doing create new text file where it creates an empty file. That's the same thing you're going to do here. So you would do touch and then file name. And then if you look, there's a file name. And that's pretty much all there is to touch. Not a very impressive command, but it's actually very useful when you need to go, you know, like touch 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you look and it creates those 4 files for you. So there's definitely places you can use it. It's just not the most glamorous of all the commands. Okay, next command is ln. And ln is very powerful if used correctly. There's 2 options to do ln with. You can do a hard link or a soft link. We're not going to cover hard links because no one really uses those, and I doubt you will. We're going to cover soft links. And what soft links are, they're very similar in a way to shortcuts in Windows. Like you could create a shortcut to a folder or a file or a program. You can do all that with soft links in Linux, but you can also link folders, like a local folder, to a folder on a remote file share and trick the operating system or the users into thinking they're on a local server or your local Linux server when they could actually be residing on a different share or in a NAS or a SAN or whatever. So to give you an example, since I don't have a remote share here, I created some links pointing to different locations. So let's say I didn't know any better and I'm like, oh, let's see what this DHCP folder is. I go in there, and to me, I think I'm under, you know, home and then admin DHCP, but in reality, I am actually under Etsy, oops, sorry, wrong one, DHCP. So that's how you can trick the users into thinking they're on different folders, or save space if you wanted to make Linux, your local Linux, think it was running like reading a log file off of actually a local volume. It could be reading a log file off a volume that you use just for logging on a remote server, so you don't run out of space on your local Linux server. So I know there's a lot to think about right there. It's a little confusing, but that's how it is. And to create like, let's just do this. I'll create one on the fly for you. So let's say we wanted to create a shortcut to the group file. So you would do etc group. And as you can see in here, I didn't have any group file, but if I do a cat group, it now shows me what's in that etc group file. So as you can see, it's pretty powerful because you can link up to, files that are 10 levels deep, and then you can get to them instantly with just one change of directory. So it's a very powerful command and something you will be using as you continue your path down the Linux highway. Next command is known as cat. And cat in its simple form just simply displays the contents of a file. Now, how you can use cat in a more powerful way is by adding, let's say you wanted to add cat test.text, and then you want to combine that with group2, and why not, for good measure, let's just enter in password. So we're going to combine by using cat. We're going to cat these three files. So we're going to display all three of the contents, but we're going to redirect them into a new file named test file. So now if we go and we do cat test file, it's going to have, this is the password list, this is the group list, and up here at the top, we have test.text. So you can see it combined all three of them. Now that's all fine and dandy, right? But let's say you wanted to add to that file. Now here's where it gets really cool. So what you would do is you would do cat, and then let's just say we wanted to add another hello world at the end. So my brain's failing me here. So we would do cat test.text, and we would double redirect it or append to test file. Now when you cat test file, the last one is hello world, and it kept all the others. So there's a hello world at the top, and you could do this over and over again. This is really useful if you're combining log files or things like that. The last thing with cat I'll show you is how to count. So let's say you wanted to know how many rows there were in this file. We would do, and it shows you there's 139 rows of content. So that's it for cat. And following cat is tail. And tail shows the very end of a file. So we have our file here. We have our long file test file. So let's say we want to do just see the last 10 lines of code. I think that's what we get by default. Cat or a tail test file. And those are the last 10. You could also add an n here and a number. So let's say we wanted to see the last 20. So you would do tail space /n or -n space 20, and it's going to give you the last 20 lines of code. There's a few more arguments you could add to it, but for the most part, those are the two you're going to use. So that's tail. The next command we're going to go over is known as grep. And grep can be used to search files. It can be used to search for processes. It can pretty much filter out any output. And when I say output, let's say we cat a file, because right, that's outputting the contents of a file. So we're going to cat test file, right? And here we go. We get a lot there. That's a mess, right? But let's say we wanted to search for something. We would then pipe it and type in grep, and then whatever we wanted to look for. So let's say we wanted to look for nn-admin. We would hit enter, and all you're going to get returned are the rows that actually have nn-admin in them. Or another one, let's say we did a ps-aux, and we get a lot of stuff here, right? We're kind of like, wow, that doesn't really help us. Let's say we wanted to search for, again, anything with nn-admin. We would grep nn-admin. And it returns back, and you can see all the sessions, or not sessions, processes that I'm running. And then you could go in and use another command that we'll use, or we'll go over later, known as kill, to actually kill these processes, similar to killing in a task list. But that is how you can use grep. It is a super powerful tool, and I'm totally minimizing it, but for the sake of not making a 12-hour video, I'm not going to go into the full details here. You're more than welcome to use the man command to look at more, or even Google, but that's the gist of it. It's used to pull information out of output. So hope that makes sense. The next command is known as sort, and you guessed it, it sorts things. So let's just take a quick look at if we were to cat password, right, our password file, it just throws things in there randomly, not in alphabetical order. But if we were to do sort password, everything comes in alphabetical order. What if you wanted to flip it and you wanted to reverse alphabetical order? No problem. Just add a /r or a -r. And there it is. There's a few other things you can do. You can actually combine this, and if there was like duplicates, you could deduplicate and things like that. But that, again, that would take more time than we want to spend in this kind of overview of the essential commands. So that's the sort command. The next command I'm going to show you is known as sudo. And what sudo does is it's the equivalent of Windows right-click and run as admin in Linux. Similar, that's the best analogy I could come up with. So you need to use it whenever you get rejected saying you do not have permission to do that. If you use sudo first, like you would use sudo and then the command, it would allow you to use it as a root, but it would ask you for a password. You'd have to put in identical to run as admin. And I'll go ahead and show you that in the next command. The next command we're going to use is known as chown or change owner, chown. And what you use this for is to change the owner of a file. So if you were to do an ls, dash ltr here, you could see there's a bunch of, oh, what just went, we just got crazy there. A bunch of files here that are all owned by, well, they're both owned by nn-admin and the group is nn-admin, except for this one down here. So let's say we wanted to change this test3 folder directory to nn-admin. So what we would do is we'd have to do sudo, and we'd have to do chown, and then we'd need to do the name of the person we want to change it to. So we would put nn-admin, and then we would put test3 and hit enter. And if we go back and do an lsltr, you can now see the owner is now set to nn-admin. And you could also go a step further and you could actually change the whole entire structure by doing something like this and then just put in an asterisk. This isn't going to do anything because everything should be already owned by nn-admin already, but that's how you would go ahead and use chown. And it's always going to make you use sudo because it takes root privileges to change who owns what kind of files. So I hope that makes sense. It's a common thing you're going to use in Linux. So if it doesn't make sense, go back and watch that one more time or hit the man page up. All right. And following the change owner command is change group, which is chgrp, followed by, well, why don't I just show you here? So let's take a look here. So we have test3 is still showing root as the group. Let's say we want everyone to be nn-admin. So what we would do is we would use the same command and we would sudo, because we need root privileges, change group. So this is the actual command, and we're going to make nn-admin the owner, or the group, the owner of test3. Now if you go back in here, there you go. And this can be a little confusing because there's actually a username nn-admin and a group nn-admin. So that can be a little confusing. But there's a change owner command and a change group command. They do two different things, but they use the same exact commands to do that. And if you needed to change this and you wanted to do a directory and you needed it recursively to change, you would need to add a change group space -r for recursively. Same with change owner. You need to add that slash or -r to make it recursive. So that's that command. Okay, the next command is chmod, chmod, and this is the command that gives rights to users, groups, and others or everyone in Linux. There are three main permissions in Linux. They are read, that is shown with an R, write, that is shown with a W, and execute, that is shown with an X. So let's take a look how that looks in the terminal. First thing we need to do is get a directory listing, and you can see we have two files and two directories. Over here on the left, we're going to get the rights. So this is where you're going to see those R's for read, the W for write, the X for execute. But what do they all mean, and why are there multiple and duplicates and all that? So anyways, let's read this one at a time. First line here, or first column, this is the file type. When you have a hyphen, this means it's just a regular file, like a text file or a batch file or a config. The D is for directories. Now if we had a link in here, there would be an L. The next three you're going to see are going to be for the user or the owner. And as you can see, the owner, which is nn-admin, has read and write permissions to this file. He does not have execute. And then the group is the next three, and that is nn-admin, and that only has read. The final one is everyone else. And as you can see, everyone else, if I could highlight it, has just read as well. Okay, now that we understand that, we need to be able to understand how to modify the rights, because we understand what they are, but now how can we manipulate them to serve our purpose, our rights, what we need to get done. So there is something you need to know, and it's a little confusing. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it out here on the screen. So A equals all, meaning it stands for all. U equals user/owner. G equals group, that's an easy one. And O stands for others. So when you're looking here, this would be considered others, this would be considered group, this would be considered user or owner, and all means all of the above. Hope that makes sense. And now we're going to go ahead and try to manipulate the rights. Okay, now that you understand that A stands for all, U stands for user, G stands for group, O stands for other, and you understand that read is R, write is W, execute is X, we can go ahead and modify those rights. So why don't we go ahead and start with test 2. I don't like that the group and the other can execute. So what we would do is we have to do sudo, remember run as admin, equivalent to Linux is sudo, and then the command, and then we would say group and other, so go, and then we're going to do minus execute on test 2. Now if we compare to what it looked like, we can see execute is gone for the group and the user, or the other, on test 2. Now let's say we wanted to add write to groups for file 2. So we would do sudo chmod, and then we would do write plus, we would do group plus write, and we would do file 2. Now if we do ls, you can now see they can write. So you can see how that goes, and you would just continue to do the same. You can add multiple, you could do, A for all, which you wouldn't need to do UGO, or you could just do UGO if you wanted, but all does the same thing. And why don't we just test that real quick? So let's just do a sudo chmod A, and then plus, let's just do execute all for test. Now if you go back and look at test, everyone has execute rights. That means, when I say everyone, I mean the owner, the group, and others. And that about covers the basics for the chmod command. Next command is du, and I would always recommend throwing a -h on the end of this to make it human readable. And as you can see, this is the size of all the files in here. Why don't we go ahead and put it to the etc directory so you can actually see a directory with some stuff in it. So you see it goes ahead and it will tell you this is the total size of the whole entire etc directory, and these are the individual files within inside that directory. So that's pretty much all that command does. Pretty useful if you are in a folder with 10, 20 things and you wanted to know what was taking up the most room. And that's that. The next command is df, and this will actually show you the size of your different volumes. And again, like du, add the -h here to get it human readable, and you can kind of see we're using 13 gigs on our primary partition for our operating system. And then you can kind of go and see, the total drive is 79, 62 available. So similar to going and right-clicking on your C drive in Windows and going to properties and seeing how much free space you have, just the Linux way. And that's that. Next command is ps, and this will return a list of the user's processes currently running in the session. Now I obviously don't have a lot here because I just have a terminal up, but if you wanted to see more, you would go ahead and do ps ax. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you a lot more, right? But what you could actually do if you wanted to get this would show you all the processes, but let's say you wanted to get even more details, you could then do add a U in there. And then it will include the user who's running each process. So you can see that root's running a lot, Kali is running a lot, and I'm running a few. Now it's kind of overwhelming here, right? So what if we wanted to search these? Well, we could use our command grep, couldn't we? So we could pipe it and do grep and look for nn admin. And again, it's going to pull out just the commands that pertain to nnadmin. And an important thing to note here is this right here is my process ID number. And you can actually use another command to kill this process, similar to killing a task in Windows. And I'll show you that later, but just so you know now, that's what we're going to be looking at later. And I think that's pretty much it for PS. The next command is going to be top, T-O-P, like the top of a mountain. And what this is it's the kind of equivalent to the Windows Task Manager. But for Linux, it's going to go ahead and show you what is currently running, what's taking up the most memory, what's taking up the most CPU. And then you go up here and it will tell you kind of a running total. The load average, these are all really low. If you came in here and all of a sudden you're looking at one and it was like 99, and I believe it goes like this is the most current, this is like maybe the next minute, and this is the hour. I don't know exactly the breakdown there, but you could look that up, but that's what it signifies, something similar to that. So anyways, if you saw this one was running really hot, you'd know you'd have a problem. Then you could come down here and go, oh my God, this process right here needs to die, and then we could kill it, which we're going to learn next. So that is the top command. The next command is known as kill, and it's a way to kill processes. So let's go ahead and test this. Let's see if we can find a program here. Oops. Let's go ahead and open up. Let's go ahead and open up burp sweep. Sweet. So let's go ahead and let that run. And then we'll have to do this thing. Let's go back. Oops. I'm going to have to accept it because I've never ran it. And what we'll do is we'll go back to our terminal here. And we will do a ps ux, and we will grep burp. And I'm not sure if it's going to be an uppercase burp or a lowercase. Apparently it's a lowercase. So now we know that we actually have it, and this is the process ID, right? So we should be able to go, well, you can actually see it right behind here running. So if we have to sudo, remember, because we don't have admin rights, and we're going to do kill. We're going to do 29951, and we're going to hit enter, and look, it just killed it. So that's a way to kill processes using the kill command. The next command is known as kill all, and then you would put the name instead of the process ID. I don't have anything running, and I'm not going to go ahead and go in and show you because it's very similar to the kill command, but instead of the process ID that you would use in kill, for kill all, you use the process name, because what it does is it kills all instances of that application. So that's how that works. The next command is actually a command to open up a text editor known as vi. And you probably guessed it, to open it up, you're going to type vi and the file name. And this is just a file I created, but you can see I'm in here now, and I can go up and down. I can see what's in there. I can do dd to delete, and there's all kinds of different commands in here, and I could do a whole entire, and maybe I will, a whole entire video just on using vi. But when you're done, to get out of it, you do have to do a colon and then a Q, and it's not going to let me because I made a change. It's going to tell me I have to overwrite it, so I have to do colon Q exclamation to get out of there. So that is vi. That is a text editor, and if you want to know more about that, you can either use the man page or your friend Google. Next command is kind of useful if you forget who you're logged in as, and how to use that command is you just type in who am I, and it shows me that I am an admin. But what if I decided to su to root? And I forgot I was root, even though it tells me right there. And all of a sudden I'm like, who am I? Then it tells me. So that's how that command works. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. And the next command is similar to who am I, but it's just going to show who's on your actual Linux server. So you would type in who. And if you wanted to get a little more information, not much, but a little bit, you could do a -A capital H, and it just gives you a little more detailed information. Not much really to do there other than see who's logged into the system. You could actually, if you wanted to, and there were multiple people logged in, you could actually kill them using their process ID to terminate their session. But for a lab environment, that's probably not going to be anything you're going to need. The next command allows you to switch users, and that is su. And you can do su. Let's see. First of all, let's see who I am. Okay, I'm an admin. Let's say I wanted to be Callie. I would do ss Callie, su Callie, sorry. And it should ask me for Callie's password. I type that, and guess who I am now? I'm now Callie. And to get out of Callie, I would just do exit, and then I can do who am I, and there I am. And another important command is the passwd command, password. This is how you can change a user's password. So let's do password, username. Okay, so apparently I need to do sudo password Callie. And it's going to ask me for my password. And then it's going to ask me for a new password for Callie. And there you go. That's how you would update a password. Next command is ping, and I'm sure everyone knows what ping is, but if you don't, it will go out and send packets to a remote or local host and expect a response, and then it will tell you how long it took for those packets to go back and forth. If they don't come back at all, it will tell you it's unreachable, which usually means it's either blocking you or just offline. So a quick way to test that is to ping, if you wanted to ping outside, you can ping 8888.8.8.8, and that is Google's, one of Google's servers. And you can see I get a reply and everything's looking good. So that is the ping command. You could also ping an actual host name like ford.com, and we'll go out and see if we can get to ford.com. So you can see we have good network connectivity here, and that is how you would use the ping command. Another command we should know is traceroute. This is identical to the traceroute in Windows, only instead of traceRT, it's the actual traceroute spelled out completely. And again, we could go to www.google.com, and it's going to go through and try to get through every hop, as they're called. And you're going to get timeouts, and those are where you get the asterisks, and eventually it should find its host. So we'll give it a second here, and I think it will go to a max of 30 attempts, 30 hops, before it just cuts out and finishes. So this is helpful if you're looking for the weak spot in a route, meaning it goes from one server to the switch to the to the firewall, and you want to know where it's losing the connection. And unfortunately, in a virtual environment where I'm at, behind a NATed virtual network, I'm not going to be able to get any responses, but you would. So that's where you would use traceroute for. The next command is nslookup. And then you would put a domain name. And what this does is it goes out and checks the DNS to see if it can pull up the DNS from ford.com, which it did here. So that tells you your DNS servers are working correctly. And the next command is a command I use all the time, and that is clear. And what clear does is if you have a bunch of junk on the screen like this, and it gets annoying, you just type in clear and it cleans it up. It's identical to CLS in Windows. Very simple command, but I use it all the time, and so will you. And another powerful Linux command that I really like is history. And it's going to just shoot a bunch of stuff across the screen. But let's say you wanted to go ahead and grep for something, right? Our good old grep. Let's say we wanted to know how to sudo, right? It's going to pull back all the times we use sudo in our last, 150 times or whatever it is. And if you forgot the command or you forgot how to do it, you could just go back and look at what you were doing. So it's a pretty powerful command. It's really cool. You could even do it and just do a history, and you could pipe it into hist.txt, and then you look down here and you got it in a history file. So you could even do vi hist.txt. You go in there, and then there's all the files. So pretty cool stuff, at least to me. I'm easily impressed. The next command that I would like to show you is crontab. And I do not have a crontab entry here. If I were to do a crontab-L, it's probably going to deny me. Yeah, but what crontab is you can set up cron jobs, as they're known, which are scheduled jobs. So I use this a lot for backups or rsync scheduling, things like that. And it's unlike the Windows task scheduler. Crontab has never failed me, so it's pretty rock solid. Unfortunately, I can't show you any jobs here, but again, you could do man cron tab and go in there and you could read up all on it and kind of how it works. You know, there's cron tab daily, hourly, so on and so forth. So I'll let you go ahead and check that out on your own. Next command isn't really critical, but it's helpful to be able to identify um, what kind of operating system you're running or which version of the kernel or etc. So it would be uname. If you just do uname, you don't get much. You just get that you're running Linux. But if you do uname with a -a, it lets you know you're running Linux, Kali, the addition, um, kernel number, and all that good stuff. So it's more of an informative, it's nothing critical, but it is a command you should know in case anyone goes, well, what kernel are you on? And, or what distribution are you running? You know, if you have multiple servers, it's helpful to know. All right, and for this, we're going to show you two commands because they're very similar. First one being gzip, and what that does is it compresses and kind of archives your folder or your folders or your files, and you would do um, gzip. Let's just do file1. And now if you go out here, you can see you have a compressed gzip file, which is file1. Now how do you get this open? You do gunzip, and you do file1.gz. And I forgot the one. And if you look now, it's unzipped. So that's pretty much how those work. And another command you should know is the tar command, and that creates an archive grouping multiple files into a single file. So let's see what we got here. We could do tar cf, and we could do file 1, file 2, and then we need to create a archive name, archive1 dot tar, and now we should create a, there you go, which will have combined file 1 and file 2. So, and then at that point you could actually gzip it. I wonder you can do a .tar, so we'll just use the wildcard there because I'm lazy to type in archive1, and then do an L, and you can see now it's a tar.gz, which you've probably seen now. If you've been using Linux at all, you would have. So that is how you would do that, and to unzip it, you would just go gunzip, and we could do .gz. There's also a command you could actually do a gunzip command that would unzip and untar. I just forgot to do that. And now that they're just tarred, I believe, let's verify. Yep, just tarred. We would then go to tar xf, and we would go archive 1.tar. And then you look again, and they should have been extracted, but unfortunately we should have deleted them before we did that. So let's try that. Let's do rm file 1, file 2, and then let's try extracting these and see if they're there. There. And there they are. So that's the tar command. Obviously there's more to it. Same with gzip and gunzip. So I would advise you to check either the man pages or Google if you have some more questions. And with that, I think we're going to call this video a wrap. So if you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate if you wanted to go ahead and give us a like, smash it. It's free. It doesn't cost you a cent, but it greatly helps us. If you want to see future content, please subscribe. We get a lot of viewers that aren't subscribing that probably miss future updates and the content we're pushing out there because they didn't subscribe. They just came in, got what they want, and then bailed, and they'll miss out if there's anything that they could benefit from in the future unless they're out there actively looking for it. So that's the benefit of subscribing. So if you could do that, that would be marvelous. Turn off your notifications. Do what you need to do. Smash them all. The more the merrier. But again, I feel we covered what I would consider to be those fundamental and critical, vital Linux skills for anyone with a vested or serious interest in Linux. So, you know what? Have a great day and take care.